Hello everyone, my name is Aldas, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about Lewis Hamilton and whether or not this is his most faultless season ever. Now, don't forget, if you like the video, then subscribe. We're almost at 500 subs, and hopefully we'll be able to get there very, very soon. But yeah, let's get into it. So Lewis Hamilton now is on the verge of winning his 5th world title, and let's be honest, it's a slam dunk that he's going to win it this year. It's just a question of how soon now, whether he'll be able to tie up in Austin, which of course is coming up this weekend, or maybe it'll happen in Mexico like it did last year, but obviously it is going to happen. And what I was thinking actually, the videos I've made in the past couple of months have been so much about Sebastian Vettel and the mistakes he's made, and Ferrari as well, of course. I've said that in one of my previous videos. But one thing I was thinking is, what about the flip side of that? What about Lewis Hamilton? And then I thought, he has had one of the best, if not the best season of his life. And not just in terms of where he is now, about to win his 5th world title, but in terms of the mistakes he's made and his consistency. And that's the word, consistency, is what you need to be a world champion. You know, you can have the Max Verstappen speed, but if you end up having 5 crashes and 5 races at the start of the season, you're never going to win the championship. But that's just an example, of course. Max is young, so he'll be able to get through that. And yeah, I was just thinking, is this Lewis Hamilton's most faultless season ever? Is he absolutely at his peak? And in this video, I'm just going to quickly run down just a quick little, little season review so far of Lewis Hamilton and just the little mistakes that he's made. Because what's crazy is that, where are we now? Just after the Japanese Grand Prix and before the American Grand Prix, and he hasn't finished any lower than second. He has not finished any lower than second since Great Britain. And he's all, that's 8 races. That's ridiculous. I mean, 8 races and he hasn't finished any lower than second. And he's only finished second twice in those 8 races and won the rest of them. He's on a 4-race win streak. Of course, that is due to, a little bit of Mercedes as well with Russia. But you cannot deny that the man has had a stellar season. And I just want to quickly run through the start of the season. Because while many people think that, he had quite a mistake-filled start to the season, I actually would rather say that it was more Mercedes and the Mercedes strategical errors that really put them there. So if you remember right at the start of the season, we started the 2018 Australian Grand Prix with Hamilton on pole. Fantastic pole. And straight away in the race, it was a Mercedes strategic error that actually caused him to finish second due to that virtual safety car. And other than that, Hamilton had a faultless weekend, really. What could he do except from go out of the pit when he was told to pit and come out and basically finish second to Sebastian Vettel, of course. So not really a mistake there. We get to Bahrain, where he actually had a penalty, which meant he had to start down in 9th. I'm not sure if it was an engine or gearbox penalty. I think it might have been a gearbox, but ended up climbing from 9th to 3rd after a little bit of controversy with Max Verstappen in that race as well. And then, of course, a great, triple overtake on the straight as well. He is the Mercedes, so what can we say about that? But, 9th to 3rd, again, a very, very good race. A great comeback. Any podium from outside of top 5 is always going to be a good result for the top teams. And then we get to China. Now, this was probably the first little dip in Hamilton's form. He got out-qualified by his teammate, and this was probably one of his weaker races this season, absolutely. But once again, it was Mercedes' strategy error that caused basically neither of the drivers to get a win. Bottas definitely could have won after a great little tussle with Vettel at the Chinese Grand Prix, but because of their strategic error and not pitting under the virtual safety car, it was Red Bull to take the victory, with Hamilton finishing in 4th. Hamilton then had a double win in Azerbaijan and Spain. Now, although once again, Baku was definitely not one of Lewis's strongest weekends, he actually made very little mistakes, if we're being honest. He made very little mistakes, and of course, at the end it was more Valtteri Bottas' race, but after the puncture, Lewis came through to win it. Unlike Sebastian Vettel, who threw it away with a pointless dive. Again, very faultless weekend and then gets the result. And that's what good champions do. They turn a bad weekend into a good weekend. They just somehow can, that mere mortals and other good drivers just can't. And then, of course, you get to Spain, absolute dominant. I mean, I think he won the race by about 20 seconds. Again, faultless. Now, next we come to Monaco. Now, once again, a very actually faultless weekend by Hamilton, but Mercedes just never had the pace. All he could do was beat his teammate, but it couldn't quite compete with the Ferraris and Red Bulls. But that's the thing. Still finishing 3rd and having the 3rd best car in Monaco, some people say all he could do is 5th, but beating Kimi Raikkonen and beating Max Verstappen purely because he had made no mistakes, the experience he's had throughout all these years, he just kept it calm, unlike Max who binned it. And that's where the experience comes in, obviously. And then we get to Canada. Now, this was probably the biggest dip in Lewis's form and a very surprising one considering how successful he has been, but getting beaten by his teammate he definitely didn't seem on it that weekend, and that's probably the biggest sort of little dip or bad form that we've seen from Lewis Hamilton in terms of the entire weekend. He just never really seemed like he can compete with Bottas, and never looked like he even got anywhere near the win. But then we get to France, and again, he just bounces back with a great win, while his championship rival is crashing off his teammate again. So capitalizing where he needed to. And then we get to Austria. Now, this was, again, more of a Mercedes mistake. And Mercedes' strategical error, actually. I mean, in the end, it didn't matter because neither Valtteri nor Lewis finished. But Mercedes just were clearly sleeping by not pitting Lewis Hamilton. And ended up, even if they didn't break down with Lewis, they would have lost the race because of a Mercedes mistake. But of course, they ended up retiring with both of them, which was a very, very big shock. That doubled the NF for Mercedes, which is rare. And the only retirement Hamilton has had all season. However, after that comes a ridiculous form. Since Austria, this is what I've been talking about. The last 8 races, he has finished no lower than second, and he's only finished second 2 times. He has had 6 wins. So, we get to Great Britain. He gets spun out on the first lap by Kimi Räikkönen, and then ends up going to second. And then we get to Germany and Hungary just before the mid-break. And it's really his wet weather pace and just how good he is in the wet that defined those 2 weekends. The race in Germany, the qualifying in Hungary, they were the reasons why he won those 2 races. Again, a little mistake in Germany. You can definitely bring this up in qualifying. He damaged his car, which ended up having to be retired during qualifying. But then once again, as I say, despite that mistake, he turns a bad weekend into a good weekend, and that's what good champions do. And ends up winning the race, and even rubbing even more salt in Vettel's wounds after he crashed. So yeah, that was the first part of the season. So a little bit up and down, but mostly good. He was leading the championship at this point, and we were waiting for Vettel to come back. But the second part of the season, well, about to get into it right now. So obviously, after coming back from the summer break and all the crazy transfer news that we come back to Belgium. Vettel takes the win there purely on pace. He was just better than Hamilton that weekend. And Hamilton, where does he come? Second, right behind Vettel, and just as good as he could do that weekend. But after that, 4 races on the bounce, while Ferrari were tripping over themselves, while they didn't know what they were while Ferrari were tripping over themselves on winning this championship, Hamilton and Mercedes capitalized. No mistakes, faultless weekends, 4 race wins in a row, and it was curtains for Sebastian Vettel's championship hopes. And that obviously brings us to where we are now, on the verge of his 5th world title to match Fangio. And really what I'm trying to get at in this video is I think this has been Lewis's best season ever. Compared to Vettel, he has made minimal mistakes. He has capitalized on weak weekends, and him and the team seem more coherent than ever on how to win this year's championship. But yeah, guys, that's just what I think. But what do you think? Do you think this has been Hamilton's strongest season ever? And how can he top it in 2019? Please let me know in the comments box below. And don't forget to subscribe. Like I said, we're almost at 500 subs, which is amazing, considering I only started this YouTube channel about 4 and a bit months ago. So thank you so much. And again, just subscribe. We're almost at 500, and like the video as well. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.